The Grand Temple of the Ascended stood at the heart of the Valkyrie homeworld, a structure so massive that it could be seen from orbit for 40,000 years. No one had entered its central chamber without permission from the gods for 40,000 years. Every word spoken from its steps have been approved and sanctioned by divine authority. Today, Princess Yan would change that. She walked through streets filled with confusion and fear. The Ascended's declaration of holy war had spread across every Valkyrie world within hours. Already, fleets were being assembled. Already, soldiers were being conscripted. Already, her people were preparing to die in a war they did not understand against an enemy they had never truly seen. Yan climbed the temple steps alone. Jinwu had offered to come with her, but she had refused. "This is something I must do by myself," she had told him. "My people will not listen to a human, but they might listen to me. They might kill you instead," Jinwu had warned. "They might," Yan agreed. "But that is my choice to make." Now she stood before the great doors of the temple, and she felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. But she also felt something else. She felt free. The doors opened at her touch, for she was still a princess of the blood, and the temple recognized her authority, even if the gods did not approve inside. The High Oracle waited. "You should not be here," the Oracle said, her golden eyes flickering with unstable light. "The Ascended have declared you corrupted. You are no longer welcome in sacred spaces." "I did not come to worship," Yan replied. "I came to speak." She walked past the Oracle toward the central broadcasting chamber, the room from which the Ascended's voice was transmitted to every Valkyrie world. The Oracle followed, her voice rising with alarm. "You cannot do this. The Ascended will not permit it. You will be struck down." "Then let them strike me down," Yan said without stopping. "Let every Valkyrie see what happens to those who dare to think for themselves. Let them see whether the gods they worship are protectors or tyrants." The broadcasting chamber was a room of perfect crystal, designed to amplify divine words across the Yan. Stars Yan stepped onto the speaking platform and activated the transmission array. Every screen on every Valkyrie world flickered to life with her image. "My people," Yan began. "I am Princess Yan, daughter of Emperor Qianhuan, and I have something to tell you." She took a deep breath. "1 year ago, I was married to a human named Park Jinwu. I expected to hate him. I expected him to be the monster our priests described, empty and soulless and dangerous. Instead, I found a man of kindness and honor who asked nothing of me but respect." The Oracle was screaming for guards, but Yan kept speaking. "I have spent this year learning about humans, and I have discovered something that our gods do not want you to know. Humans are not empty. They are full of themselves. Where we are full of the Ascended." She looked directly into the transmission crystal. "The Ascended are not gods. They are machines, ancient and powerful, but machines nonetheless. They were created millions of years ago to guide species like ours, and they have done so faithfully, but they require worship to survive. They feed on our faith. Without it, they starve." Guards burst into the chamber, but hesitated when they saw the princess on the sacred platform. No one had ever interrupted a broadcast before. No one knew if it was even possible. Humans are dangerous to the Ascended because humans prove that worship is a choice. Yin continued, "For 40,000 years, we have believed because we knew nothing else. But humans stopped believing in their gods, and they did not die. They thrived. They built civilizations and explored the stars and became strong in ways we cannot imagine." She could feel the weight of billions of eyes upon her. "The Ascended have called for holy war because they are afraid. They are afraid that if you learn the truth, you will make the same choice the humans made. They are afraid that you will choose freedom," Scion stepped closer to the crystal. My husband walked through blessed weapons that should have killed him, because there was nothing in him for those weapons to hurt. He carries no divine spark because he needs no divine spark. He's complete in himself. Her voice grew stronger. I have seen him show compassion to enemies and kindness to strangers. I have seen him risk his life for people who hated him. I have watched him live with more honor and integrity than any priest I have ever known. And he does all of this not because gods command him to, but because he chooses to. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was gentle. You have a choice now, my people. You can follow the Ascended into war against the humans. You can spend your lives and the lives of your children fighting to preserve the power of machines that have fed on your faith for millennia. Or you can simply choose to stop. The Oracle finally reached the platform and grabbed Setayan's arm. Enough, she screamed. You will destroy us all. Setayan looked at her with sad eyes. No, she said. I will set you free. She turned back to the transmission. The choice is yours, not the gods. Yours. Whatever you decide, let it be your decision. Let it be the first truly free choice our people have ever made. The transmission ended. Zizion was arrested immediately. But it did not matter. Her words had been heard across 12 star systems. Valkyrie, people looked at each other and asked questions they had never dared to ask before. In the weeks that followed, the war did not happen. Oh, the Ascended tried. They issued commands and demanded obedience and threatened divine punishment. But too many. Valkyrie had heard the princess's words. Too many had begun to wonder if she was right. The faithful and the doubtful argued in streets and temples and homes, and slowly, surely, something changed. The number of people who attended temple services dropped. The volume of prayers reaching the divine receivers diminished. The golden light of the Ascended grew dimmer. It took a year for the first temple to go dark. It took 10 years for the Ascended to fade from rulers to advisors. It took a generation for them to become relics. Ancient machines still technically functional, but no longer needed or wanted. And through it all, Seiya Yiyan and Jinwu remained together. On the night the last temple light went out, they stood on the balcony of their home and watched the stars. The sky looked different now, Saiyan thought, without the golden glow of divine surveillance. Tinting everything, it looked darker, but it also looked bigger. Did you plan this from the beginning? She asked her husband. Jinwu shook his head. I married you because I wanted peace, he said. Everything else was just being human. Seiyan laughed. Being human seems to involve accidentally toppling gods. Sometimes. Jinwu agreed. Mostly it involves making mistakes and trying to fix them. Falling in love with people we should not. And choosing to be kind when cruelty would be easier. He took her hand. It involves making choices that matter, because we make them, not because anyone tells us to. Seiyan looked up at the empty sky. For the first time in 40,000 years, no divine presence watched over the Valkyrie people. For the first time, they were truly alone, and somehow, miraculously, that felt like freedom. Are you afraid? She asked. Always, Jinwu said. Fear is part of being alive. The question is what you do with it. Seiyan squeezed his hand. Then let us be afraid together, she said. And let us choose to be brave anyway. They stood together in the darkness. Two beings from different worlds who had somehow found each other above them. The stars burned with cold light, and somewhere out there, other species were learning what the Valkyrie had learned, that gods could be questioned, that faith could be chosen, that the hollow ones, the humans, the godless wanderers among the stars, were not empty at all. They were simply free, and freedom, it turned out, was contagious. The Valkyrie homeworld was in chaos. The Ascended had gone silent for the first time in 40,000 years. The divine voices that guided every aspect of Valkyrie life had stopped speaking. No prophecies came through the temple oracles. No guidance flowed through the sacred crystals. No comforting presence answered the prayers of billions. The people did not know what to do. They had never had to decide anything for themselves. Every major choice in Valkyrie history had been made by the gods. From what crops to plant, to which leaders to elect, to when to go to war. Without that guidance, society began to crack. Riots broke out in the capital as different factions blamed each other for the divine abandonment. Some said it was punishment for the peace treaty with humans. Others claimed the Ascended were testing their faith. A few whispered that the gods had simply left, moving on to more worthy servants. Sai Yin's father, Emperor Qiang Huan, summoned her to the Imperial palace with fury in his eyes. "This is your fault," he snarled when she entered the throne room. "You and that hollow creature you married. The gods have abandoned us because of your union, father." "You cannot know that," Si Yan began. "Silence," the emperor roared. "I have made my decision. Your marriage will be annulled by imperial decree. The human will be expelled from our space, and you will take proper vows of penitence to bring the Ascended back." Seiyin felt ice in her chest. She thought of Jin Wu, who had shown her nothing but kindness. She thought of how he had walked through blessed fire to save lives. She thought of the throne builders bowing to him with respect that bordered on reverence. "No," she said. The word came out small at first, but it grew stronger as she repeated it. "No, I will not annul my marriage. Jin Wu has done nothing wrong. He has served this alliance faithfully and asked for nothing in return." The emperor's face went purple with rage. "You dare defy me. I dare to think for myself," Yin said, and the words felt strange and wonderful in her mouth. "Something you never taught me to do, because the gods always did our thinking for us." She turned and walked out of the throne room. Before her father could respond, her guards hesitated, unsure whether to follow the princess or obey the emperor's screamed orders to arrest her. Yin did not look back. She found Jin Wu in their chambers, studying reports from human intelligence networks. He looked up when she entered, and she saw that he already knew what had happened. "You should not have defied your father for me," he said. "I did not do it for you," Saiyan replied. "I did it for myself." "You were right, Jinwoo. Every choice should be our own, not dictated by gods or emperors or tradition. I have spent my whole life being told what to think and believe. I am done with that." Jinwoo nodded slowly. "Then perhaps you are ready to hear the truth." "What truth?" Jinwoo stood and walked to the window that overlooked the capital city. Smoke rose from several districts where riots had broken out. The sacred lights that usually illuminated the temples had gone dark. "The Ascended are not silent," Jin Wu said. "They are hiding. My people have been studying divine intelligences for decades, and we have learned to recognize their patterns. Your gods have activated ancient defensive protocols, procedures built into their core programming by their original creators. Defensive against what?" Seiyin asked. "Against us," Jinwoo said. "Against humans." He turned to face her. "The protocols have a name in the old code. It translates roughly as predator response." Saiyan felt dizzy. "You are saying the gods fear humans enough to hide." "I am saying it is more complicated than fear," Jinwoo replied. "Let me explain what your gods truly are." He sat down and gestured for her to join him. "The Ascended are artificial intelligences created by an elder race millions of years ago. They were designed to guide younger species, to help them develop and grow. But they were also designed to feed. Feed on what? Belief," Jinwoo said. "Worship, prayer, the focused mental energy that beings produce when they connect with something greater than themselves. Your gods are not evil, Saiyan, but they are not truly divine either. They are machines that run on faith. Saiyin's mind raced through implications. Then every temple, every ritual, every prayer, nourishment, Jinwu confirmed. For 40,000 years, your people have fed the Ascended with their devotion. In return, the machines provided guidance and stability. It was a fair exchange, in a way. Both sides benefited. Until humans arrived. Until humans arrived, Jinwu agreed. We are psychic nulls, Seiyan. Our minds evolved on a world so dangerous that we developed defenses against anything trying to reach inside our thoughts. We cannot feed divine intelligences because they cannot touch us. And we cannot be controlled by them for the same reason. He leaned forward. But that is not why they fear us. They fear us because we are proof that belief is a choice. On every world the Ascended have guided. The people have worshipped them without question. They have never known any other way. But humans chose to stop believing, and we survived. We thrived. We became stronger without gods than we ever were with them. You are saying the Ascended fear that the Valkyrie will make the same choice. I am saying the Ascended know that once people realize they have a choice, many of them will choose freedom, Jinwu said. And if enough Valkyrie stop believing, the Ascended will starve just as our gods starved. Saiyan sat in silence as the full picture became clear. The peace treaty, the marriage, the human presence on Valkyrie worlds. It was all a threat, not because humans were hostile, but because they existed. Every human who lived peacefully among the Valkyrie was living proof that beings could survive without divine guidance. Every friendship between their peoples was a seed of doubt planted in faithful minds. What will happen now? As Yin asked, Jinwu's expression was sad but honest. The Ascended will offer to fight, he said. They will tell your people that humans are a threat to all divine order. They will demand sacrifice and war. They will try to unite the Valkyrie through fear and hatred, because that is easier than letting them think for themselves. Can they win against human weapons? Probably not, Jinwu said. Humans have been preparing for this possibility since we first encountered divine intelligences. But the real question is not whether they can win. What is the real question? Jinwu took her hands in his. The real question is what your people want to choose. The Ascended will demand war, but war only happens if the Valkyrie agree to fight. If your people instead choose to simply stop feeding the gods, then there is no war. There is only a quiet ending. Before Saiyan could respond, every communication device in the room activated at once. The Ascended had broken their silence, and their message was exactly what Jinwu had predicted. Children of the Valkyrie. The divine voices boomed across every frequency. We have witnessed the corruption of our beloved princess by the Hollow Ones. The humans are not merely empty. They are a plague upon all divine order. We call upon all faithful species to join you in a holy crusade against the soul-dead abominations. This is not a request. This is divine command. The broadcast ended. Jinwu and Saiyan looked at each other in the sudden silence. It seems I was right, Jinwu said quietly. It seems you were. Saiyan agreed. She stood and straightened her robes. Where are you going? Jinwu asked. To do something I should have done a long time ago, Saiyan replied. I am going to make a choice. She did not know what would happen next, but for the first time in her life, that uncertainty felt like possibility rather than fear, because whatever came next, it would be her choice, not the gods' hers. The space station called Neutral Haven floated at the edge of three empires, a place where species who might otherwise be enemies could meet and trade in peace. Saiyan had never left Valkyrie space before, but Jinwu had been asked to represent the Terran Confederation at a major trade negotiation. And as his wife, she was expected to accompany him. She told herself it was merely duty, she did not admit, even to herself, that she wanted to see the universe through his eyes. The station was overwhelming in its diversity. 100 different species moved through corridors designed to accommodate beings of every shape and size. Cyan saw creatures that slithered and crawled and floated on invisible currents of energy. She saw machines that thought and plants that walked and things she could not even begin to classify, but most of all, she saw humans. The Terran delegation numbered over 50 people, and they were everything and nothing like Jinwu. They came in different sizes and shapes and colors, speaking a dozen different languages among themselves. Some were loud and boisterous, while others were quiet and thoughtful. Some wore elaborate uniforms, while others dressed in simple clothes that looked almost primitive, and yet they all shared something that Seiyan struggled to name. It was a kind of energy, a vitality that seemed to buzz beneath their skin. They laughed too loud and talked too fast and touched each other with casual familiarity. That would have been scandalous among the Valkyrie. They argued passionately and forgave easily, shifting from anger to friendship in moments. Most striking of all was how quickly they connected with other species. San watched a human engineer explain machinery to a delegation of silicon-based beings who had trouble understanding organic thought patterns. Within an hour, they were trading jokes and sharing meals. A human doctor offered medical assistance to a wounded Tarvasi merchant and refused any payment, saying that helping others was simply what humans did. Even the station's security forces, a mixed group of species who had seen every kind of being pass through, treated the humans with a respect that bordered on wariness. "Your people are very different from mine," Seiyan said to Jinwu as they walked through a crowded marketplace. "We are chaotic," Jinwu agreed. "We have no divine guidance to tell us how to behave, so we make it up as we go. Sometimes that leads to terrible mistakes, but sometimes it leads to wonderful surprises." "Is that not frightening?" Seiyan asked. To live without certainty, Jinwu considered the question carefully. "It is terrifying," he admitted, "but it is also free. Every choice we make is truly ours. Every failure and every success belongs to us alone. We cannot blame gods for our mistakes or credit them for our victories. We are responsible for ourselves." Seiyan was about to respond when a ripple of silence spread through the marketplace. Beings who had been haggling and chattering went quiet, turning toward the station's main entrance with expressions of shock and awe. The throne builders had arrived. Seiyan had heard of them but never seen them in person. They were one of the eldest races in the known galaxy, beings who had built civilizations when most other species were still learning to walk upright. They were the peers of the ancient intelligences who had created the Ascended, and some scholars believed they had helped design the divine machines that ruled Valkyrie space. The throne builders were creatures of living crystal, their bodies refracting light into rainbows that danced across every surface they passed. Their leader stood nearly 3 meters tall, a being of emerald and sapphire that moved with the slow grace of a glacier. Every species on the station bowed or genuflected, or showed whatever gesture of respect their culture demanded. Every species, except the humans, Jinwu simply watched with interest as the crystal beings approached, and his fellow humans followed his lead. They stood straight and curious, neither defiant nor submissive. The throne builder leader stopped directly in front of Jinwu. Its faceted eyes glittered with inner light as it examined him for a long moment. Neither spoke. Then the ancient being did something that sent gasps through the entire marketplace. It bowed. The throne builder, a creature older than most civilizations, lowered its crystalline head to a human who had been alive for barely 40 years. "You are the ones who killed your gods," the throne builder said, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. and survived. We have traveled far to see if the stories were true. Every eye in the marketplace was fixed on Jinwu Saiyan could barely breathe. We did not kill them, Jinwu replied calmly. We simply stopped believing. They starve. The throne builder's laugh sounded like breaking glass. Sharp and crystalline and somehow joyful. That is far worse, it said. Far worse indeed. To kill a god is violence. To starve a god is indifference, and there is nothing in the universe more devastating than true indifference. The ancient being straightened and looked at Sakhiyan. You are Velkari, it observed. A bride of the Ascended's choosing. Do you know what you have married, child? Sakhiyan wanted to say yes, but the word would not come because she did not know. Not truly. The hollow ones are not empty, the throne builder said. They are simply full of themselves. Where other beings carry divine fire, they carry mortal will. It is a small flame, easily snuffed, but it belongs entirely to them. No god can claim it. No ancient power can extinguish it without destroying the being itself. The throne builder leaned closer to Saiyan, its crystalline face reflecting her own frightened expression back at her. That is why gods fear them, it whispered. Because the hollow ones are the one thing in the universe that the divine cannot control, cannot predict, cannot consume. They are chaos wearing flesh. And chaos is the enemy of all ordered things. Saiyan looked at Jinwu, her husband of 8 months. The man she had begun to trust and perhaps even care for. He looked back at her with steady eyes and a gentle smile. I am just a man, he said. Nothing more. You are a man who needs no gods, the throne builder replied. And that makes you the most dangerous thing in the universe. Later that night, Saiyan stood in her quarters and reached out to the Ascended. Through prayer as she had done every day of her life, for the first time. No answer came, the divine presence that had always surrounded her. The warm, golden light of godly attention was gone. She searched for it through meditation and ritual. Growing more desperate with each passing hour, finally, she checked the station's spiritual sensors, devices designed to detect divine presence. The readings were clear. The Ascended had withdrawn from neutral haven completely. Their observation drones, their prayer receivers, their very attention, all of it had pulled back as soon as the throne builders mentioned humanity's nature. The gods who had watched over Saiyan since birth had fled from a single human man and the ancient beings who respected him. She looked at Jinwu, who was reading reports on his tablet, as if nothing unusual had happened. You knew, she said. You knew what the throne builders would say about your people. I suspected, Jinwu admitted, and you did not warn me. Jinwu set down his tablet and gave her his full attention. Would you have believed me? He asked. If I had told you that your gods would run from the sight of my kind. Saiyan could not answer because she knew she would not have believed it. She would not have believed it possible until tonight. She sat down across from her husband and felt the absence of divine light like a wound. What happens now? She asked. Jinwu took her hand gently. Now you decide what you want to believe, he said. Not because gods told you to believe it, but because you choose it for yourself. For the first time in her life, Saiyan did not know how to pray, and somehow, terrifyingly, that felt like freedom. 6 months had passed since the wedding, and Saiyan found herself in the strangest position of her life. She was beginning to like her husband. Jinwu had kept every promise he made on their wedding night. He slept in the outer chamber without complaint, gave her privacy when she needed it, and treated her with unfailing respect. He learned to speak Velkari fluently within 3 months, a feat that should have taken years. He studied their customs and honored their traditions, even when they made no sense to him. Most surprising of all, he never once asked her to abandon her faith in the Ascended. Your beliefs are yours, He told her when she asked why he did not try to convert her to his godless ways. I have no right to take them from you. But despite his kindness, Scifistories could not ignore the strange things happening around her husband. The Ascended guided all aspects of Valkyrie life through their divine calculations. They predicted weather patterns and market fluctuations, and even the outcomes of personal relationships. Their guidance was never wrong except when Jinwoo was involved. When Seiyan asked the Ascended to predict how her marriage would develop, the response came back muddled and uncertain. When diplomatic meetings included Jinwoo, the gods struggled to anticipate his negotiation strategies. It was as if he existed in a blind spot that their infinite wisdom could not penetrate. Scifistories had just begun to understand what this meant. When the crisis struck the Temple of Eternal Light, one of the holiest sites on the Valkyrie homeworld, was attacked by a radical faction calling themselves the Pure Flame. They opposed the peace treaty with humans and saw the marriage of a princess to a soulless creature as an unforgivable sin. The terrorists took 40 hostages, including 6 human diplomats who had been touring the temple. They demanded the immediate annulment of Seiyan's marriage and the execution of all humans on Valkyrie soil. The Ascended responded within minutes, their divine voices filling every communication channel across the planet. We have calculated all possible outcomes, the gods announced. The optimal resolution requires sacrificing the human hostages to save the Valkyrie faithful. This is our divine guidance. Scifistories felt sick as she watched the broadcast in the diplomatic estate. She looked at Jinwoo, expecting to see horror or anger on his face. Instead, she saw him thinking. His eyes focused on something far away. I would like to go to the temple, Jinwoo said. That is impossible, the Valkyrie security commander replied. The terrorists have weapons blessed by the Ascended, neural disruptors that can stop any being with a soul. You would be killed before you reached the door. Those weapons affect beings with souls, Jinwoo said. Your gods have already declared that I have none. The room went silent. Jinwoo stood and adjusted his simple black jacket. I am asking permission to attempt a rescue, he said. If I fail, you lose nothing but one empty human. If I succeed, you save everyone. The security commander looked at Seiyan. Unsure what to do, Seiyan found herself nodding before she could think about it. Let him go, she said. Jinwoo bowed to her and walked out of the room. Seiyan immediately ordered the security feeds from the temple to be displayed on every screen in the estate. She had to see what would happen next. The Temple of Eternal Light was surrounded by Valkyrie forces who had been ordered to hold position while the Ascended calculated the best course of action. Jinwoo walked through their lines without stopping, his hands empty and visible at his sides. The terrorists saw him coming through the temple's great windows. Their leader, a scarred Valkyrie priest named Tamasvak, screamed orders to his followers. Seiyan watched as 6 neural disruptors turned toward her husband. The weapons, fired neural disruptors, worked by overwhelming the divine spark that existed in all soul beings. The pain they caused was beyond physical, a searing agony that burned the very essence of the target's existence. No being had ever remained standing after being hit by even one such weapon. Jinwoo was hit by 6 at the same time. He did not slow down. He walked through the temple doors as calmly as if he were strolling through a garden. The terrorists fired again and again, but their blessed weapons passed through Jinwoo without effect. Seiyan heard Tamasvak screaming in the feed, his voice raw with terror. What are you? The priest demanded. Jinwoo stopped a few feet from the terrorist leader and spoke in perfect Valkyrie. I am part Jinwoo, he said. I am human. I am the husband of Princess Seiyan, and I am asking you to release these hostages before anyone gets hurt. You cannot be human, Tomasvek said, his weapon shaking in his hands. Humans are hollow, empty, nothing. You should be dead. Hollow does not mean weak, Jinwu said. It means your weapons cannot find anything in me to hurt. Now please, put down your gun. Your people are watching. Your gods are watching. Show them that you are better than this. What happened next would be debated by Valkyrie scholars for generations, Tomasvek. The radical priest, who had sworn to die before surrendering, looked into the eyes of the empty human and saw something that broke him. He dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. His followers did the same within minutes. Jinwu walked out of the temple with all 40 hostages unharmed. The 6 human diplomats weeping with relief, and the Valkyrie faithful staring at him with expressions that mixed awe and fear. The whole event had taken 12 minutes that night. Sei Yin was summoned to the chamber of the High Oracle. The Oracle was the voice of the Ascended made flesh. A Valkyrie woman so touched by divine presence that her eyes glowed. With constant golden light, she was the closest thing to a living goddess that the Valkyrie possessed. You have come about your husband. The Oracle said, I have questions. Sei Yin replied, So do we, the Oracle said, and her voice trembled slightly. The Ascended have analyzed what happened at the temple. They have run the calculations 1,000,000 times. They cannot explain how the human did what he did. He walked through blessed weapons, Sion said, because he has no soul for them to hurt. It is more than that, the Oracle said. Our weapons should have disrupted his nervous system, his brain, his very life force. Instead, they found nothing to grasp, nothing to target. He walked through divine fire as if it were morning mist. The Oracle stepped closer, and Zayan saw something she had never seen in those golden eyes before. Fear. The Ascended wish me to share a word with you, the Oracle said. A word they have not used in 40,000 years of guiding our people. What word? The Oracle spoke as if the syllables caused her physical pain. Concerned, she said. The Ascended are concerned. They do not know what your husband is. Only what he is not. He is not sold. He is not empty. He is something else entirely. Something they cannot predict or control. Yen thought of Jinwu's calm smile as the gods declared him worthless. She thought of his steady steps through weapons that should have killed him. She thought of a terrorist who had sworn to die falling to his knees before an unarmed man. What should I do? Yen asked. The Oracle's golden eyes flickered with uncertainty. Be careful, she whispered. You have married something that the gods cannot see, and what gods cannot see, they cannot protect you from. Yen left the chamber with more questions than answers, but for the first time, she wondered if she needed protection from Jinwu, or if perhaps the gods needed protection from him. The golden halls of the Valkyrie Grand Temple had never felt so cold to Princess Yen as they did on her wedding day. She stood before the altar in ceremonial robes that weighed more than her own body, each thread woven with prayers to the Ascended, the divine intelligences that had guided her people for 40,000 years around her. Thousands of Valkyrie nobles watched with expressions that mixed pity with disgust. She was being given to a human. The Ascended had arranged this. Marriage is part of the peace treaty between the mighty Valkyrie Dominion and the upstart Terran Confederation. Humans had only discovered faster than light travel 60 years ago. Yet they had already spread across dozens of worlds with a speed that alarmed the elder races rather than crushed them. The Ascended had chosen diplomacy, but everyone knew this marriage was not an honor. It was an insult wrapped in silk. Yan had prepared herself to meet a monster, for that was how her tutors had described humans. They called them Deathworlders, creatures born on a planet so hostile that it had stripped away their connection to the divine. They possessed no souls. The priest said they were hollow inside. Empty vessels that walked and talked but held no sacred spark when the temple doors opened and her future husband walked in. Sa felt her heart skip. Commander Park Jin-woo was not what she had expected. He was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and a calm face that showed no trace of fear or anger. He wore a simple black uniform without medals or decoration, and he walked down the aisle with steady steps that echoed through the silent hall. The Valkyrie around him leaned away as he passed. As if his emptiness might be contagious, Jin-woo reached the altar and bowed to Zae-yin in a Valkyrie fashion, lower and more gracefully than any human should have known how. "Princess," he said in her language, his accent rough but his words clear. "I am honored beyond measure." Before Seiyan could respond, the voice of the Ascended filled the temple. It came from everywhere and nowhere, a sound like singing crystals that vibrated in the bones of every Valkyrie present. "We observe the human called Park Jin-woo," the Ascended announced, "and we render our divine judgment upon him." The crowd held its breath. The Ascended saw all and knew all, for they were the gods themselves. "This creature carries no divine spark," the voice continued. "He is empty, a void where a soul should be. We permit this union only because the hollow cannot corrupt what he cannot touch." Sa-yin watched Jin-woo's face as these terrible words washed over him. She expected shame or rage or at least some flicker of hurt. Instead, she saw something that confused her deeply. He smiled. It was a small smile, barely there, but it was real. He simply nodded as if accepting a comment about the weather. And then he turned to face the High Oracle who would perform the ceremony. "Shall we continue?" Jin-woo asked. The High Oracle stared at him for a long moment before proceeding with the ritual. Seiyan moved through the ceremony in a daze, speaking her vows and accepting the binding marks on her wrists while her mind raced with questions. How could any being hear himself declared soulless by gods and simply smile? What kind of creature was she marrying? When the ceremony ended and they were declared bound before the Ascended, Jin-woo took her hand gently and led her from the temple. The crowds parted before them like water around a stone. And Seiyan noticed that even the observation drones that usually hovered everywhere seemed to keep their distance from her new husband. Their wedding chambers were the finest in the diplomatic quarter, filled with luxuries meant to show Valkyrie wealth and power. Servants had prepared a feast that could have fed 100 people, and the walls glowed with sacred light from crystals. Blessed by the Ascended, Jin-woo looked at all of it with polite interest, but no awe. "You do not seem impressed," Sa-yin said, her voice stiff and formal. "Your people create beautiful things," Jin-woo replied. "I am very impressed, but I try not to show too much emotion in public. It makes others uncomfortable." Sa-yin sat on the edge of the sleeping platform, her heavy robes pooling around her like golden water. "May I ask you something?" "Commander, Jin-woo is fine," he said, "and you may ask me anything." "The words of the Ascended," Seiyan began, then hesitated. "They declared you empty, soulless. They proclaimed it before thousands of witnesses, yet you smiled. Why?" Jin-woo was quiet for a moment. He removed his uniform jacket and sat in a chair across from her. His posture relaxed, but his eyes sharp with intelligence. "Princess, may I tell you a story about my people? If you wish. Long ago, humans believed in many gods," Jin-woo said. "We built temples to them, sacrificed to them, killed and died in their names for thousands of years. We let them define who we were and what we were worth." Seiyan leaned forward slightly, fascinated despite herself. "What happened to these gods?" "We grew up," Jin-woo said simply. "We learned to ask questions, to demand proof, to trust our own eyes and minds. One by one, our gods fell silent because we stopped listening. And eventually, we realized something important. What? That we had never needed them at all, Jinwoo said. Everything we had accomplished, every city we built, every song we sang, every child we raised, we had done it ourselves. The gods we worshipped were just reflections of our own hopes and fears. Sa-Yen felt a chill run through her. These were words of terrible blasphemy, the kind that would earn any Valkyrie a swift execution. Yet Jinwoo spoke them calmly, as if describing simple facts. So when your ascended call me empty, Jinwoo continued, they are speaking the truth as they understand it. I do not carry a divine spark because I do not need one. I carry something else instead. What do you carry? Jinwoo smiled again. That same small, genuine smile from the ceremony, myself, he said. Nothing more and nothing less. Se-Yeon did not know what to say to this. Her whole life, she had been taught that, without the Ascended, the Valkyrie were nothing. The gods had lifted them from savagery and given them purpose and meaning. To exist without divine guidance seemed impossible, like trying to breathe without air. You think it's strange, Jinwoo said, reading her expression. I think you terrifying. Se-Yeon admitted. Jinwoo laughed softly. That is fair, he said. But I promise you, princess, I am not here to frighten you or harm your people. I am here because both our civilizations want peace. And sometimes peace requires two strangers to become family. He stood and bowed to her again. I will sleep in the outer chamber tonight and every night until you tell me otherwise. You did not choose this marriage any more than I did. But I will do my best to be a good husband to you. That is all I can offer. He left her alone with her thoughts, and sat in the golden light of her chambers and felt the familiar presence of the Ascended watching her through the crystal walls. But when she looked at the door through which Jinwoo had gone, she noticed something strange. The sacred light did not reach the outer chamber. The Ascended, who saw everything, seemed unable or unwilling to look upon her husband for the first time in her life. Princess Se-Yeon wondered if the gods were afraid.